Welcome back, friends. Today I'm excited because I'm working on a possible new series. I always start with an experiment. I do a smaller version of what I'm thinking to see if it even visually is pleasing to me, to see if it works, to see if the ideas in my head translate. Because I don't want to be working on something, 36 by 36, 48 by 48, and find out that it's a complete failure. So I like to work a little smaller to see, is this going to work out? So before we get started, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed to my channel. I finally made it to 500 subscribers. That doesn't sound like a whole lot when you compare to other channels that have thousands. But hey, it's a start, and I'm still growing this channel. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. So let's talk about what I'm going to do today. This is what I have so far. I've been working on this yesterday. So what this is actually a lot of the prints that I make from my paintings, and they're cut up into squares and stripes, and they're glued to this artboard. The plan is, anyway, to do a layer of resin and then come back tomorrow and either paint or stencil on top of that and then do another layer of resin. So this is my first multi-level resin project that I've worked on. So I'll show you just a little bit of the gluing process and the cutting process and all of that, and then we'll move on into the resin pour. So here I am cutting out small pieces that will go on my second layer above the resin, above the first layer of resin. So I have to sort of cut them to fit. So I've traced with some tracing paper the shapes that I need, and I'm cutting out those shapes in sort of the different colors that I think would look good in those particular areas. And I'm reserving them until tomorrow so that when my art resin is cured and I'm ready to put on my second layer, I will add those little pieces and then put on another layer. Okay, so I have cut out my little pieces that are going to go on layer 2 of the resin. I am probably going to spend some time over on my Cricut. I probably won't put that on video, but if you want to see how I cut some of my reusable stencils on my Cricut, take a look at this video here, and you can see how I turn Procreate artwork, or like fast little doodles, into reusable stencils with a Cricut Joy. To finish up for today, I have to do the art resin. So I actually use art resin. This is a epoxy that is non-toxic. It's got no VOCs. It's a lot safer to use. I'm all about my health. So we have the resin and the hardener. We have to mix them. This is a 12 by 12. So I looked on the calculator and they say 5 ounces, which means 2.5 ounces of the hardener and 2.5 ounces of the resin. I'm going to mix them for 3 minutes, and then I also have a video that goes more in detail on how to use art resin, and you can find that here. So I'm going to mix up this resin, pour it, leave it overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow and finish up. Here is my board, all nice and beautifully resined. And I am going to add some additional papers to this, and then I'm going to do another coat of resin. I'm also going to paint and do some stenciling. I think I'm going to stencil anyway. Another thing that I did yesterday was create these stencils. So you can see them up against my black here. These are just to be, used like in small areas. So in one of my little 2-inch areas that maybe is a little simpler, I can do a little bit of stenciling in that area. Now, another thing that I completely messed up was I was supposed to print out a little square here with some words at the house without bringing it. I don't want to go all the way back home to get it. So I remembered I have my book. And in here, I have this page, which I actually like these words right here. And it's almost a 2-inch square, and I even like the green color. So I'm going to cut this out in a 2-inch square and paste it in that area. So I'm going to tilt down the camera so that you can watch me work. Here I am roughing up the surface of the resin, and that's so the second coat of art resin will stick to it. If you don't give it some tooth, something to stick to, it will eventually fall off at some point. Maybe a while from now, but it'll still fall off. Okay, so I'm going to begin my final pour over this. I did trim this side over here a little bit. I think this is dry. I put an extra coat of gel medium on this because I really don't want I want to make sure this is completely sealed. So let's get started with pouring I first put the gloves and then I have to mix up my resin, and I will come back. Okay, so after doing the second coat of resin, I ended up, I put the box on top to protect it, went home. And then when I come back the next day, there's these bubbles, like big bubbles too. There was like a grouping of 3 little bubbles on one side and then 2 small bubbles. It was not good. Also, one of the paper pieces that I had glued onto the first layer of art resin was peeking through the second layer of resin. So I didn't really, I guess, adhere it properly. Live and learn. This is my very first multi-layer resin. So I'm giving myself a break on this. But anyway, so I did some stenciling to camouflage it a little bit. I sanded it all down so it was nice and even, and then prepared more resin and did another layer, and it looks fantastic. So you can't even see over here in the corner. Well, you do see 3 little dots, but that's because the stenciling didn't go inside, but it looks intentional. So, but it's all even now. There's no bubbles. So another thing that I am noticing is I'm still getting some dust. So one tip that I think that I've just learned, don't have a ceiling fan above you. Not when you're doing this anyway. I always leave the ceiling fan on because sometimes it's kind of hot in here. But I think from now on, that is not going to be the case. I am going to make sure that I always turn off the ceiling fan when I'm doing an art resin. So I have an announcement. In June, which is like probably 4 weeks away, I am going to be leaving here, leaving my studio at Baca. I'm very sad about that. I'm heartbroken, but I have to leave. So anyway, the city is changing their artist in residency program, and it is time for me to move on. It's time for me to find a permanent space that I have complete control of. Maybe it's a little bigger than this, and I'm allowed to talk about whatever I want. I'm allowed to do whatever I want, and I don't have to worry about getting permission from the city. So, not that that's been like a real problem. It hasn't. And I have loved my 4 years here. Absolutely loved. Unfortunately, 2 of those years we've been in a pandemic and we haven't had a lot of traffic and all of that. But I still had this fabulous space to work in. And it's just been really inspiring to be around other artists when I'm working. Very different from working at home. So I'm not going to move back at home because I've kind of filled up those spaces where I was working before. So I am currently looking for a new space. It may be months. So this channel might have to change a little bit. I may have to, I don't know, talk about things that I can do on a computer, or just, talk about art marketing and that kind of stuff. I will not be able to do art tutorial demonstrations because I won't have a space to do that in. But I'm very positive about the future. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find something, some solution. Well, I will be able to pick this back up again and we will be able to get back to normal. But maybe, just maybe, the channel changes will actually be for the better. And maybe also my studio will be for the better. Thinking positive. So thank you for watching this video. Definitely try some art resin. It's the best brand on the market, I think. And come again soon. See you later. Bye-bye.